Hello Marvel fans, thanks so much for clicking on this video. My name is Chris. The cracks in the shield are finally showing for Marvel Studios, and it's not looking pretty anymore, guys. What I wanted to talk about here today, guys, is over the weekend an article was published detailing how some VFX workers who work for Marvel Studios are extremely unsatisfied with the company and are starting to speak out about the work environment, some of the strain Marvel puts them on, and honestly, we ourselves are really noticing the effects of Marvel no longer taking time to pay fine attention to detail in their movies, specifically in Phase 4, where a lot of Marvel fans are wondering, did they fall off? Plus ratio. I'm going to be breaking down all those details here on these VFX workers who are speaking out on Marvel and exposing them for the work environment they're being put on, some of the key Marvel movies and TV shows where we're really noticing the difference, and how that's affecting the movies we get now. Alright, so as we start things off, there is one thing I want to say. I'm still a big fan of Marvel. Even though recently it feels like they've had a couple of missteps, bumps in the road where I'm not 100% in love with the movies they've been pulling out lately, it was eventually bound to happen. Marvel was going on in such an amazing winning streak of movies. It's kind of a miracle they made it so far without the giant fan base all of a sudden now starting to turn. So a lot of my criticisms here are coming from a place as a fan who is still a fan of these movies, is gonna look forward to the next phase, and I'm nowhere near in the mindset where I think Marvel has completely fallen off and everything they make now will just be garbage. It's possible to love and be excited for something while still being openly critical and honest about your opinion when you see it. So with that said, we got an article over the weekend from The Gamer that was titled VFX artists are refusing to work with Marvel due to the stress and unrealistic deadlines. This article has gone ahead and collected many instances where VFX artists in the industry have spoken out against Marvel and why exactly people in the industry who actually do CGI work do not want to work with Marvel and would rather go work on shows like the CW, a DC movie, or heck, even just any other random movie that requires visual effects as long as it's not Marvel Studios. In the article here, they say specifically, in a thread titled, "I am quite frankly sick and tired of working on Marvel shows," a Reddit user said, "Marvel has probably the worst methodology of production and VFX management out there. They can never fix the look for the show before more than half the allocated time for the show is over. The artists working on Marvel shows are definitely not paid equivalent to the amount of work they are put in." And the comments there from different VFX artists just get worse and worse from there. One person says, "I'm almost 3 years straight of Marvel. Welcome to the 7th level of hell. Black hole of sleep deprivation and eating bad." Another person saying, "I'm on my 3rd Marvel project in a row and literally just woke up 5:30 a.m. on a Saturday with stress going, I don't want to do this anymore. It's 6 a.m. now and I am making a reel to apply someplace that has projects other than Marvel because I can't do this anymore." And then this is the one that kind of made me go, damn, it's that bad? One person stated, "Marvel has seen grown men punch walls, throw monitors from stress, break down a couple of times, and have seen the strain it can put on marriages. But hey, the money was fantastic. F Marvel as a client. The credit name is not effing worth it." And I think one of the main reasons we're seeing VFX people now openly complain about this and speak out against Marvel is because every time a new Marvel project comes out, whether it's a TV show or an upcoming movie, there has been a growing number of complaints of people going, "Oh, damn, that's CGI. Yikes, the CGI. What happened there?" And you know those VFX artists that worked on those shows or movies are reading all these comments, hearing everybody out, and they're just boiling up inside because it's like, I was forced to do that in half the time it would be required to, working overtime, working weekends, trying to meet this deadline that Marvel required, only for fans to then crap on it, and you feel just so bad because it's like, I could have done a better job if I was given the time. One of the most recent examples was with the She-Hulk trailer. When that came out, a lot of people complained that She-Hulk's face just did not look right. It was too smooth, it was having this uncanny valley feel, and a Marvel VFX worker came out and said it would have looked right if Marvel hadn't come back every other week saying, change this up, make her smaller, decrease these, making all these changes that Marvel doesn't realize every time they tell a VFX artist to make one simple change, that's at least 3 extra more weeks worth of work to make that change, and then they still expect the VFX workers to meet their deadlines. And this really sucks just on both ends, for the VFX workers and us fans consuming the products. Because one, as a fan, I go back and look at some of the early Marvel projects back when they were releasing maybe like 1 movie a year, max 2, really giving them time to space out their projects and have a handful of VFX workers only working on 2 films. And I feel like it's almost night and day difference, the VFX on there. I go back and look at that first Thor movie, and the VFX are pretty spectacular. Sure, there's maybe a hiccup here and there, but they look like gorgeous movies, and you kind of come over to Thor Love and Thunder, and it's like, what happened here? I understand it's a new take and it's a new visual style, but there were a lot of shots in Thor Love and Thunder that looked very wonky, so haphazardly put together that you could just tell where you were staring at VFX work. It also doesn't help there was a recent clip of Taika Waititi and Tessa Thompson making fun of the visual effects work in his own movie.
Okay. Does that look real?
In that particular shot, no, actually. It doesn't really, right? When you look close.
Does it need to be more blue?
Well,
you know,
no.
does he look real?
No, none of
Does
us.
she look like...
Something looks very...
Think of being that VFX worker who was forced to work on that shot with such limited time only for them to get crapped on. It's no wonder we're starting to see them speak out more. This brings me to like the biggest problem the MCU is having right now. It's just becoming quantity over quality. I think of like the Moon Knight show and like how they made an amazing physical Moon Knight suit for the entirety of the show to just cover it up with CGI, really taking away from some awesome costume work. Or what's even more insulting that's becoming more common now is Marvel is releasing the projects before the visual effects work is finished and hoping we won't notice. With Spider-Man No Way Home, that was like a big shock around the world because they were so desperate to get that movie released, put it out in front of everybody, and it was like one of the first Marvel movies where the visual effects were changing as it was in the theater. People notice if you saw Andrew Garfield opening night, he did not look the same the next week because they touched up those visual effects. Heck, it's one of the reasons a lot of these Marvel movies now don't feel so cohesive because they're being forced to delete all these scenes because there's such visual effects heavy shots that can't get completed in time that they got to be removed. For Thor Love and Thunder, they removed the entire scene where Jane gets imbued with the powers of Thor for the very first time. If you saw Thor Love and Thunder, you know they kind of just skip over that scene. The hammer starts to light up and then they just cut over to the next scene when we have behind the scenes footage of Natalie Portman going up in the air and getting imbued with the powers of Thor. That had to be removed, and I'm assuming because that's a visual effects heavy shot that was not able to be completed on time. Also, why we're getting the Spider-Man No Way Home extra fun version and why it's not being released until September, because there were so many shots and things they wanted to put in No Way Home that weren't going to be completed in time, but yet they still wanted to release an unfinished product for the audience because it's like, these Marvel fans will eat up anything. It's really a growing crazy issue because even if you look at DC, a company that gets crapped on all the time just because they can't get their cinematic universe together, they have come out and been open about, look, we're not going to be able to finish Aquaman, The Flash, or any of these other DC movies in time, so let's delay them. That's one of the reasons we've had major delays on The Flash and Aquaman. It's not the Ezra Miller stuff. And with all the crap we give Warner Brothers and DC, at least they want to go ahead and give the fans as much quality as they can before we rip it apart. They were willing to spend the millions of dollars to finish Zack Snyder's Justice League and have those visual effects finished, and that movie is all the better for it. I think one of the biggest reasons right now we're seeing Marvel just be so heavily on these VFX artists and trying to rush out millions of projects is because they missed out on an entire year. When we had the pandemic in 2020, that was a whole year we didn't get anything Marvel. No movies, no shows. And since then, it's been nonstop, where it feels like Kevin Feige and Marvel are just trying to race up to the time they lost because they are so dead set on their plan. And if they continue to have any more delays and hiccups, it's just a bigger problem and issue for Marvel. But really, like, it's getting to a point where I would just rather them delay, get a lot less projects in a year if they come out finished, if the stories are feeling more cohesive, and more importantly, these poor VFX artists are not abused and dreading to go to work, because shouldn't it be such a huge honor you go to work and say, I work for a Marvel movie, my name is going to show up in the credits? And there was like one post in here in this article about a guy who mentioned he didn't get hired for a Marvel VFX job, and all these people responded to this guy saying, you dodged a bullet, man, you don't want to work here, trust me, you saved yourself, go be happy, have a life. Which I think is just an insane environment that Marvel has had lately. But this is where I throw it off to you guys. You hear about Marvel getting exposed on the way they treat their VFX artists, how much they're just rushing projects out so much that they're releasing unfinished. We're not getting all the scenes we needed to. Movies are coming out a little more sloppily. Fans are divided. What is the solution to this? Why do you think Marvel is just okay with just releasing this stuff like this? Really would love to know from you guys. Don't be forgetting to hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. Follow me on Twitter at 3C Films or on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm Chris. Take care.